Hi, welcome to Reddit Tea Time. I, 47 male, have a son, Jake, 26 male, who has his own son, Mike, 5 male. Jake's mother and I only had a short-term relationship, and it was an accidental pregnancy. To be blunt, I never wanted to be a parent, particularly not at 21. However, Jake's mother did, and it wasn't my decision. Although we have always kept the peace, things have always been icy between us due to that. However, I always tried to do right by Jake. I would have him every other weekend, and for a month during the summer, would do my best to deliver on anything he asked of me, treated him kindly, and tried to be a good father. Then at a certain point, his mother married a guy Jake hated, and I had him move in with me once he was 13. I won't lie, I wasn't cut out to be a parent. I love Jake, but I just hated parenting. I did it anyway since he was my son. We have a very good relationship, and I've never shirked any responsibility to him. Jake also became a father at 21. However, he was all for it and is happily married to Mike's mother. I also got him into my electrician's union and had him set up on some good jobs. So he was on much better footing than I was for a child. Back then, we had a long talk and I told him, Jake, being a parent is a very different life. It's hard, exhausting, and on a day-to-day basis, you don't really get to do what you want to do very much. It will be a very long time before you don't have that kind of responsibility anymore. Then the conversation turned to how I would help him. I told him no. I'm retired from parenting. I'm turning back to my own life. He has his own home, union job, is engaged, and adult enough to decide to have a baby. He's the adult now. He's the parent. I'll be around if there are any emergencies. Obviously, I'll do what I can, but I won't be an active grandparent. I've largely held to it. I've been doing a lot of travel, I have a girlfriend, hobbies, and to be blunt, I'm doing all the things I didn't get to do in my 20s. Do I see Jake and his family? Yes. However, I rarely agree to babysit. Jake resents that I don't go to Mike's games. They tend to conflict with my weightlifting club. And that I'm pretty hands-off with Mike. Things came to a head last week when Mike had a baseball tournament and I refused to go because I had plans to take a scuba diving class with my girlfriend, which admittedly could be rescheduled. I didn't tell Jake this, but I spent so many Saturdays bored out of my skull watching Little League when Jake was little. I always cheered loudly, was crazy supportive, and never let on that it was like watching paint dry. But this is no longer my responsibility. So I told him, Jake, I've spent 20 years parenting. That's enough. He then yelled at me that I'm always jetting around, playing like a teenager and not putting him first. I told him that no, I wasn't. I did that for 20 years to get him on his feet as an adult. I've done that and can go back to prioritizing my own life. Now for some comments. You might not be the bonehead, but you're ruining your relationship with your son by essentially telling him, I don't care about being actively involved in your life. I've already done the bare minimum expected of me, and I won't do more. Do you want him to go no contact with you? Because that's the direction this is heading in. OP replied, maybe this will make me the bonehead, but if that's the price, okay. I've spent 20 years putting Jake first and not really having much of a life. I didn't get on a plane to Thailand and change my name. I didn't tell his mom, I don't want to be a father, so if you have a baby, I'll pay child support, but leave me alone. I was a very active parent. Jake was raised into a fully functional adult with a stable, steady job, his own home, and his own wife and baby. I did it because I fathered a child. He couldn't take care of himself, and it was my responsibility. Jake is fully able to take care of himself and Mike, as is Mike's mother. If I need to give up the next 20 years and be daddy again, no. I'll only do it once. This time, I'm proverbially getting on the plane to Thailand. The price is too high. I've done my duty and hung up my parent hat. At this point, yes, I'm done. I've signed up for and took responsibility for Jake. Jake chose to have Mike. Well and good. But now he's the parent, not me. Although every disagreement on the internet always has going no contact as literally the first port of call, real life isn't like that. But because it seems that it's what everyone wants to talk about, if let's say that were really what it came down to, so be it. I'd wish him and his family well. But whether it makes me the bonehead or not, I've taken my life back, and I'm not going to put it on the side again. If the choices are I walk off into the sunset or I have to be daddy again, I'm walking off into the sunset. Nobody has threatened such a thing, nor is anyone talking about it. But this being the internet, it is the go-to that everyone says immediately. I hope things don't go that way. I don't want them to go that way, but if those are the terms, that would be my choice. What I'm reading from this is that you knew you weren't cut out to be a parent. You feel you've done your duty and are now determined to do everything you feel you missed out on. You can do whatever you like, and whether you're the bonehead or not, your actions will have consequences, but only time will tell if you find you regret your actions or not. OP replied, "Indeed, you're right. I've also considered exactly what you suggest in your last line. Thought very, very hard about it, in fact. I'm far more likely to regret never getting to live my own life if I were to give that up again." You're the bonehead for being a bonehead. Just tell your kid you hate him and want nothing to do with him and his kid. Then you can go and be selfish and forget you were ever a parent. I know you said you hung up the parent hat, but that's a brutal and heartbreaking thing to put into practice. He has a kid at the same age you did, but for the first 13 years, you only had him for twice a month, plus an additional month. So that's 78 days per year you had him. You only took on more parenting work after his mother remarried. So you have what? 5 years of constant parenting? You're the bonehead. I wouldn't consider going to an occasional Little League game or going to the zoo with your son and grandson parenting. More like being a loving grandparent. Then again, if that's all you did for the first 13 years of your son's life, I suppose you would consider that parenting. Info. Reading your posts and comments, it sounds like you've decided to quit being a parent. Does this mean when asked, you'll tell someone you don't have a son or grandkids, or will you be honest and say you have them, but you don't consider yourself a parent because you don't feel like being an active father anymore? OP replied, "No, it doesn't mean I'll tell people that I don't have a son or grandson. I tell people that freely all the time. Rather, it means that I don't have parental responsibilities anymore. If Mike has a baseball tournament, recital, or they need a babysitter, that isn't my department anymore. I see them semi-regularly for visits. If there is some emergency or something, I'll help out. But I'm doing my own thing and putting my own life first. Jake is a fully independent adult and he's the father now. The baseball, recitals, preschool graduation, it's all his department now." I get it. Some people were never meant to be parents, and you're one of them. Thing is, you just broke your son's heart. He wants you to love his son as much as he thought you loved him. But with what you've said, you told him that you didn't really love him. You told him in not so many words that you only ever saw him as an obligation that got in the way of the life you really wanted. I don't think you really grasp how rejected, unwanted, and unloved you made your son feel with your words. He already dealt with that from his mom and her husband at 13 when his mom let her husband treat her kid like crap to the point that he had to move in with you. You added to that, so good job. I wanted to originally say everyone sucks here, but no. You're the bonehead with how you hurt your son. I don't really feel great about throwing this on the internet, but everyone is too mad to talk to me, so this is about what I've got. My son and his wife have been together for 6 years and have a little 4-year-old girl. They've had their problems every once in a while, but to me it seemed like they always worked it through. I know he absolutely loves her and I thought they were very close. But 3 days ago, my son came to my door at 10 at night, drunk, sick, and in complete tears. I guess she had been cheating on him for some time, and during an argument she finally admitted it. He just fell apart. He could hardly breathe right. I cleaned him up and put him in bed, and that's about where he's been since. He looks ill. He won't eat. I've never seen him so upset. His wife and her family were calling us both repeatedly, but we just didn't deal with it at first. He was devastated. I wanted him to have a moment to gather himself. This morning I bit the bullet and answered her call. She was angry he had walked out and left her with their daughter, and said she just wanted to talk this out like adults. I told her that she could talk to him when he chose to contact her, and that I think he'd want to work something out, but she needed to give him some space. She got more upset, and I told her I wouldn't talk to her if she was going to throw a fit, so she hung up. I don't know what she told her family, but I've since gotten calls from her mom begging me not to let him leave her and their daughter. Her sister called me to berate me for protecting a deadbeat father. They're all freaking out. He isn't abandoning his family. His life has been turned on its head, and I want him to have some time to find his feet. It's just been 3 days. It's not like he's run away. But now everyone's angry at me for letting my son leave his daughter, which he absolutely adores that little girl. He'd never just up and leave. So am I the bonehead for letting him stay with me to get away from his family? I know it leaves his wife in a tight spot, but it's been 3 days and she hardly works part-time. It's not like he's left her with an impossible task. And I absolutely intend to have my son deal with this, but I just can't see him feel like this, and I don't think he could have any meaningful conversation this way. What should I do? I'm not trying to let him hide from his responsibilities, but he's hurting and needs time to breathe. Some additions and edits to clarify. Of course, we've discussed the possibility that his daughter might not be biologically his, but he doesn't plan to abandon her regardless. He loves his little girl and would despite anything. And as far as if her family knows the full story, I have no clue. I haven't even tried talking with them yet. Now for some comments. Not the bonehead. He isn't opting out of being a father. He's taking the time he needs to process information. He does need to get his stuff together quick and go be a father again. He needs to divorce her, collect evidence, hire a lawyer. Not the bonehead. He has no moral or legal obligation to contact his cheating spouse or try and work something out with her. He has every right to demand a paternity test before having anything to do with his daughter again. Not the bonehead. He is not a deadbeat father. However, he might be heartbroken, but he needs to get a hold of himself here. He needs to divorce his wife and be present for his daughter. She probably realized he was gone for 3 days and she's not responsible for her mother's behavior. He needs to show her everything is okay, because in situations like this, kids think it's their fault that their parents are arguing, even when it's not their fault, obviously. I know he's in pain, but as a father, he needs to put this to the side and be there for his baby. Good luck to him. My 34 male younger brother Matt, 31 male, was engaged to this woman Emma, 30 female, for the past year. Everyone in our family, my sister, parents, and myself, thought they were a perfect match. Emma was very polite, well-educated, had a great family whom we had met a few times, and was head over heels for Matt. Fast forward to 3 months ago, and Emma finds out Matt cheated on her with this other woman, Cindy, female 25. Needless to say, the marriage has been called off and everyone has been beyond angry with Matt. Our parents haven't spoken to Matt since the fallout of what's happened, and even I have only spoken to him twice, each call lasting less than 5 minutes since then. Our sister has also not spoken with him either. This morning, I received a call from Matt saying that he wanted to reconcile with the family. He mentioned how upset and depressed he's been since making the worst mistake of his life, and how much he regrets his actions. I was listening up to this point, but got annoyed when he started mentioning how also Cindy wants to meet our parents and the rest of us. He told me that he left our parents a voicemail a few days ago, but they haven't responded, and that he feels isolated from our family. I point blank told him that he only had himself to blame for this, and that he clearly didn't think what he did was a mistake since he was still with Cindy. He said he just wanted us to give them a chance, but I told him I had to go to work and left the call while he was finishing a sentence, as I was very frustrated with him. Am I the bonehead? Update. For everyone suggesting that Matt found his true love in Cindy, that's questionable from my perspective. He still claims his current relationship with her is a mistake, and I'm fairly certain he has said as much to her in the past. Update 2. After reading some of the comments and doing some self-reflection, I've decided to reach out to my brother. It's true. He's done something terrible, and there is simply no other way of seeing it. However, despite the disappointment, I still do feel that I have a responsibility towards him at this low point in his life, especially considering that my parents and sister probably won't be reaching out to him. I called him, the call lasted about 20 minutes, and offered to meet him in person, which did seem to cheer him a bit. I, however, made it abundantly clear to him that I had no interest in meeting Cindy. At this point, he said something that confirmed my suspicions on what he thinks of Cindy, but was still pretty surprising to hear him say. He told me that he's open to the idea of dumping Cindy if it helps build back his relationship with our parents and sister. When I asked him if he was sure about that, he said that she was small time and that she knew the risks of getting into a relationship with him, so her feelings would be on her. This whole situation sucks, and I don't even know what I feel or think about it anymore. Now for some comments. I guess you can't help how you feel. What your brother did was vile and selfish. Though I'm kind of shocked none of his 4 immediate family love him enough to try to salvage the 31-year relationship with him. None of them enjoy his company and care about his well-being enough to keep contact. Your whole family's reaction is very off-putting. The only way I can rationalize it is that you guys didn't have a particularly strong bond with him before and liked Emma and who he was when he was with Emma way more. I would get this reaction if all of this happened a couple of weeks ago, but it's odd to write him off forever. So I'm probably going to be downvoted here, but you're the bonehead and so are your parents. Matt made his bed when it comes to Emma, and their relationship ending is the result of that. And yeah, you're valid to be angry with him over that. But it's been 3 months and you're still cutting him off? Your own relative? You're choosing his ex's side over your own brother? Yes, he 100% sucks for what he did. And yes, you're 100% valid for being angry with him. But what he did is ultimately between him and Emma. Reddit is going to downvote me all to hell for this because they view cheaters as very black and white. So I'm going to reiterate. Cheating is never okay. It's never something that should be excused within the relationship. But you and your parents were not within his relationship with Emma. And the fact that you're all cutting him off like this tells me you have a huge issue with boundaries, and you and your family were too involved in his previous relationship. I've never cheated, nor will I ever cheat. I've been cheated on and it sucks. But I never once expected my ex's family to choose my side over their own child or brother. Never. That's so weird to me. You do you, but he didn't cheat on you or your parents. And you acting like he did is so weird. You're focusing on how much of a perfect match they were, but clearly not because he cheated. Everyone sucks here, I think, but only mildly. He's a bonehead for cheating rather than just breaking up with her. But I wonder if you all missed the signs of his not being happy with his ex because in your entire family's eyes they were a perfect couple, and just ignored the red flags in their relationship and he cheated to put the relationship in the ground. You guys are boneheads for not speaking with him in a calm manner to find out why over 6 months later. And if you don't want to meet Cindy ever, he's your brother, and unless he's done a whole series of other crappy things in his life and the cheating was the straw that broke the camel's back, in my opinion, going no contact because you really liked his ex is insane to me. I, 48 female, have a younger brother called Alex, 48 male. I'm the second oldest. I have an older sister, Marina, 50 female, and a younger sister, Helen, 46 female. Around 5 years ago, Alex's ex-wife, Natalie, 47 female, cheated on him and they split up. It was a very sad situation as Alex adored his wife, but she wanted someone who was present more as he's a heart surgeon and his job is demanding. Around this time, Alex started to struggle with mental health problems and went down a dark path for about a year. He hired a housekeeper, Sarah, who was 18 female at the time and she's now 23. He fired her only after 3 months. Back then, he claimed it was because he didn't want to be lazy and he wanted to take care of his own cleaning and cooking. But we recently found out that it was because he got her pregnant but he didn't believe the child was his. He refused to do a paternity test and essentially left that poor young girl to fend for herself. His excuse was that she was a recovering addict and he was ashamed that he had gotten involved with her. But I don't understand why he would have hired a recovering addict in the first place if that was going to be such a big deal with him. Somehow, he recently got back into contact with her and found out about his 4-year-old son. He panicked about it and told the family. He said that he was going to send child support and see his son weekly, but that he wasn't going to introduce the boy to his 14-year-old twin daughters with Natalie, and that the boy wasn't going to be a part of our family holidays. He introduced Sarah to our family, and although she seems fine now, she struggled a lot when he abandoned her as she had no friends or family to support her. Her situation reminded me of how we grew up when our father abandoned our family, and it made me sick to know my brother had done the same. I told him that it was wrong for him to treat his son like a dirty secret just because he's embarrassed about how he behaved. I host all family holidays and gatherings because no one else is organized enough. I said that I wanted to see my nephew there or I would stop hosting because that child deserves to know where he came from. My mother and older sister agree with me, but Helen and Alex are calling me the bonehead for trying to dictate how he handles his life. Am I the bonehead? Now for some comments. Your heart's in the right place, but slow your roll for a second and make sure you're thinking about what's best for the kid, not what you wish had happened in your own childhood. If Sarah and the boy showed up at the big family Christmas when they don't know most of you, and not everyone wants them there, how is that going to go? How is the child going to be made to feel? I'd say work on building a relationship with them first, before making decisions about big events like that. Ultimately, having an aunt who wants him in her life and who shows up for him will be far more important to that boy than whether he comes to your Christmas this year. Finally, while your brother has been an absolute bonehead, it sounds like he's only now at the very beginning of letting his son into his life. His policies about holidays and who meets who may change over time as he gets used to the concept. I'm not saying he's right or that you can't argue with him. Just don't necessarily assume that what he says right now is actually an edict that will be true forever. Not the bonehead, but be careful not to cause any collateral damage to the kid in your charge for justice. Not the bonehead, don't stop hosting family gatherings. Tell Alex he isn't allowed to come until he realizes what family means and acts like that boy is his family. Make sure the mom knows her son is invited every time. I honestly would start inviting Sarah and your nephew. That woman deserves and needs support. Not the bonehead. Dude knocked up a teenager that was half his age and abandoned her and his child. Now he wants to treat his child like an outsider? I'm glad you're calling him out and encouraging your nephew to be part of the family. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you like these stories, please consider subscribing. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next Reddit story. In the meantime, please take care of yourself. Bye for now.